Hey everyone, so today I'm going to go over the tier list, but without basically going over the overall rating, I'm going to go more towards biased and more towards PvP rating. So for today, I'm going to rank the heroes more of a PvP side than PvE and overall, like I would do otherwise by simply getting their overall ratings value into the actual tier list. Today I'm just going to go over the biased ratings and without much of a math thing and just going simply on the feelings. So first of all, the biggest change is going to be moving Yorm to the S plus side to the top. So Yorm currently has a potential to be even higher because I can't really test her in the Celestial Trials. I just put the assumed ranks and the ranks that I have seen people use and do, but I didn't test this personally myself, so she has a potential to actually sky up to the SS tier, but this is assuming your Yorm has runes as it and is 8 stars or 9 stars, 7 or 9 stars basically. Ideal 9 stars with a mix of 2 epic, 2 legendary runes, or full legendary as you can afford. So Yorm basically is in the between of SS and S plus tier. Obviously Hela S tier, basically the perfect hero in the game, only struggles in the Crimson Town, but that's really nothing important. Pandora the second closest hero, and Victoria being the third hero, although Victoria has been slowly falling out because Hela basically just replaced her everywhere. So Victoria is still rated as S plus tier, but she's no longer really needed there because Hela just does the job better and not really cheaper because she does require runes, but Victoria is still a great hero nonetheless, just overshadowed, and really Hela just simply is better in everything that Victoria is. So sadly, even though she's in SS tier, it's not really a real rating, but her PvP is still strong at 10 to 12 stars and really makes teams do unspeakable things if she's on the team. So then we move on to the other ratings. So Arcane Dorabella I'm going to put to the S plus team. This hero at 9 stars is a beast. She got bug fixed in this season and her skills actually do a lot more damage, a lot more instances. So she's just far better. I'm also going to move Leviathan a bit up, not about the Elisha I think. So Leviathan is still very strong, but issue is she only excels at cheesing the Celestial Trials, but in PvP she's really strong, but nowadays she has counters. It's not just Leviathan herself, but other teams can beat her too. So Gaia still exceptional hero, but sadly in PvP she's more for Mystifiers only. The speed cheese no longer is as effective as it used to be. Diana I'm going to move to S tier because she's no longer as great as she used to be, although she's still cheap. The new, not Diana, I meant Ophelia, but the new Diana basically replaces her as a better hero that converts HP into attack, and on top of that does far better damage and is far better in PvP. Dahlia is also going back to the S tier. She's no longer exceptional in PvP, she's no longer exceptional in PvE. Although you will still see her in clear records and everything, she's no longer a must-have and she's no longer a hero that is exceptional in both. Cleopatra will go probably at the end of this tier. She's no longer a priority and you can get her for free basically if you start during event and follow the guides for starting with Tsukuyomi. Astrid, still great, issue is she's mostly paired with Behemoth nowadays in PvP because Mystifiers are stacked with the 5 members already. She has no slot on Mystifier, so I'm going to move her after Ophelia. And Mulan I'm also going to follow the moving because Mulan, although still great in the early game, will push you a lot of Celestial Trials. Leviathan does the same. I just tested her on my ult and she basically clears Celestial Trials as good as Mulan does, but she's far better in PvP. For the Sorijan Ayushta, I no longer feel the impact she had in the seasonal content. She's no longer a 1v9 machine as she used to be. Maybe it's because the stats she lost, or maybe it's because of the 6 to 7 synergies. 6 synergies dooms are still great because of her. The 7 doom synergies are pretty underwhelming. So I'm going to move her above Astrid, I think. But her overall usage is no longer not really although she's better than both of these heroes in PvP, so I will keep her there. I do think Behemoth is also better than all of them in PvP, so Behemoth is definitely someone who wants to be at the top of the S tier. Odin still great, so I'm going to move her before Mulan, so slightly better than Mulan, and maybe even Astrid. Narissa, a PvP hero, definitely not good in PvE, but in PvP she slaps. Same goes for the Aphrodite, and Eudora nowadays is mostly benched because Arcane Dorabella just simply replaced her. Althea is a pure PvP hero, Audrey can be both, but nowadays is mostly in PvP, and even there she is no longer as great as she used to be, because we do have Odin. Isis mostly PvP, works in PvE surprisingly because of her scaling, but is mostly in PvP. I do think Lancelot kind of lost his value in this season because he is no longer a nether synergy, so he no longer has revives. Hades is still exceptional in both PvP and PvE, Wu Zetian as well. I do think Wu Zetian should be above these heroes. Phantom Illusion Aphrodite is still great, perhaps worthy moving here because of just how strong she is for the PvP. And perhaps even Narissa could go up, but her overall usability is not as great. So I'm going to keep her somewhere in the middle, but yeah, Hades is slightly better in terms of usability. But he does require legendary runes. Mavis I do think is weaker in this season and in these seasons in general, because of the 6 to 7 synergies that scale up and she can't follow it up. The other heroes in the S- tier, is anyone worthy of climbing up? I think Ascended Bastet is worthy of climbing up, and I do think Tsuki is worthy of going to the S tier, because after losing Hunters, flat stats, Tsuki is actually slightly stronger. Issue is 6 to 7 Mystifiers do still lose to other teams that are better, such as Ethereals and Valianters. Elmer is a bit better in PvP, but in Phantoms only, so not really sure if he's worthy moving up. Doris slightly worse, Catherine still a mid filler. I do think Tiamat is someone who deserves to be in S tier, honestly. She's been scaling up in a lot of clears, especially in my newest account, and in my old account she's been popping up a lot, and she's quite good in Rift Odyssey as well, because she decreases the attack of enemy bosses to 0, so she kind of serves like Elmer but better. And another hero that's somewhat moved up is Amaterasu and the Lilith. I do think these two are now back in the meta with 7 Ethereals. If you have 9-star Dorabella, you can safely X your Amaterasu and basically play 7 Ethereals with Arcane Dorabella, Amaterasu, Lilith, Elisha, and basically any other hero that is Ethereal will do the job on this site, even if it's Eudora or any other hero basically. Lilith scales the 7 Ethereal synergy a lot, so she's really great. And she's really great in PvE as well, especially in Penrose in the higher stages. So definitely a hero that got a slot in PvP finally after a long time. And perhaps Bahamut is a bit better. I do have her dealing tons of damages. I do think Arthur is slightly worse. Lamia is pretty good nowadays. Janna is also amazing. Talanis, I'm not sure. I do think Talanis is a bit worse. And I do think Victoria is a bit better. Yingzheng is slightly losing his value in my opinion. He is no longer worth the 4th out recall. He never really was even. He was mostly for collectors or people that wanted him 8 stars to fill the synergy with Avengers. But after losing Hunters, his skill basically got nerfed a lot and it didn't get improved, so slightly worse in these seasons than before. And the twins I do think also are slightly worse. Emily is pretty great still. Leandra is also amazing, getting her value up. Vittoria, as I said, really amazing with legendary runes. Fits a lot of teams, basically Monarch Celestial filler with the bind. Hecate is a lot stronger this season because we lost flat stat from Hunter, so her scaling is actually great, maybe even better than Dullahan, but I don't think she's better in PvP than Janna, but she's still quite usable. I will move Bahamut after Hecate, I do feel that's right, and perhaps even Catherine here. Wukong is great, really great hero, does tons of damage and fits a lot of teams, both protectors and ethereals now. With their scaling, with their sustain, he can tank a lot and reflect back the damage. And as for the other heroes, I do think Eloin can move up in the tiers and Seraphina can go down. Shang is still pretty mid hero, and the rest of these heroes didn't really get much improved in my opinion. Persephone is still pretty great, but yeah. Talos I think is great if you can get his legendary runes, but as of right now he's been sitting down in this tier. In this tier I think Albert is maybe worthy moving up if you have his legendary runes. He's amazing in Avengers. Fenrir is slightly better in this season because of the flat stats being removed, although she's still unreliable. Gloria hasn't been used for me personally in ages and I will move her down. I don't think she's worthy these days. Her buffs are pretty minimal and her damage is pretty small. I think I could say the same for Seraphina, although Seraphina has been doing some work recently. Atrupus is mainly for PvE. Marlena is alright, but not as great as she used to be past season because there's not a lot of HP. Maybe she could be good in 7 Valiantors, but I didn't really try her out in there. The issue with heroes in this tier is basically they have good synergies or good kits like Lee, but they don't have seasonal synergy and they're hard to fit because we do have already a lot of good heroes and fitting Lee in them is pretty hard. So same goes for the rest of these heroes. Basically, they're even if their kit is alright, they're hard to fit if you have all these heroes. If you don't have, you will find slot to fit them, especially Portia, and I do think Argdina is back to being a worse hero after losing Nether, so yeah, there's that. Portia is still pretty great hero. And as of Lissandra, I think she's also back to being one of the worst heroes, but I will put her in the A-. She still fits some slots with the Wukong in second ethereals, so basically I run this team called Eudora, Wukong, Lissandra, Eloin, and the one more ethereal. And it was doing quite alright in tournament. It got 18 wins twice, so I'm not going to give up on her, but yeah, I do think she needs some more buffs to be viable. So as for the newest hero, Primordial Argdina, she's great in PvP issues, she's horrible in PvE, so I'm going to give her S- and somewhere in between Amaterasu and Lilith. You do need her 9 stars to beat Extreme 100, that's the issue, it's pay locked basically. If you don't have her, you will not beat Extreme 100. It is what it is, it's pretty dumb, but yeah, I'm not the one making these changes. So yeah, she's basically a PV filler, perhaps even as great as Althea, I would say, maybe even better than Althea. So I will actually keep her in here, although she's not in overall usability tier, she's still great in PvP, so perhaps doing something like this would be better. And then we have the Sourceborn Marina, which I do think is going to be amazing, and I'm going to fill her in this tier. I do think she's somewhere in between these heroes, so based on the testing I did with her at 6 stars, I do see the value, I do see the potential in the Pandora based around team, so I do think she's going to be great, even great in PvE as well, so currently tentative placing will be in here. And as for Lucifer, I have no idea, perhaps probably in S Plus or SS tier we will see on her release. But yeah, currently this is the tier list I'm going for. As I said, most of these are biased towards PvP more than PvE, but I'm trying to look at the both sides when crafting this tier list. So yeah, hopefully I didn't get anything wrong. This was done on the go, so I didn't really fully think about it before. I did adjust this tier list in the sheet before, so I somewhat had an idea of what to do, but I wanted to do an overall rating as well as PvP rating. But it's kind of hard to fit both. I would probably have to do a PvP only tier list and then PvE only tier list, which is fine, it doesn't take a lot of time, but yeah, overall I do think this is quite alright tier list. Busted might lose out on the value when Lucifer released, but that's a leak for the Lucifer skills in the future. And yeah, overall I do consider this tier list to be fine, and yeah, see you in the next one.